Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And welcome to yet another edition of Lynn Cullen Live, this one, July 29, 2021. In reading the local paper today, one of the local papers today, I saw an article about the county, I guess, taking bids for an effort to redesign, I believe, that huge edifice sitting on the river downtown, which houses well over 1,000 poor souls. I'm talking about the Allegheny County Jail, of course. Apparently, the county is seeking a consultant that can come up with ideas for a significant overhaul of the physical facility there. And I thought it odd that that was their interest, because we have a guest today who works for one of the local newspapers, the Tribune-Review, and she recently had a story that certainly caught my eye, and I hope caught a lot of other people's eyes as well, because it suggests that the Allegheny County Jail requires a heck of a lot more than a redesign of the physical facility. In fact, it needs a top-down redesign of what is going on inside the structure to the human beings who are incarcerated there. My guest is Paula Reed Ward. She is a reporter for the Tribune-Review, as I said. And the piece she wrote centered on just one soul who passed through that facility and is now seeking a redress of her grievances from that from her experience through the federal courts. Paula, are you there?
Morning. I am. Good morning.
Hi. Good. Glad to hear you. So, I mean, I just thought it odd that the county is going to spend money, redesigning the physical insides when it's just so clear from your article that there is so much that needs to be dealt with inside that has nothing to do with, changing the configuration of the physical space. I wonder if, just to start this off, we could talk a little bit about the specific case that the article addresses, a case of a young mentally ill woman named Kimberly Andrews, and what happened to her. And it's not hearsay because there is video evidence. Could you just tell her story for us?
Sure. And, I got this information. I had covered Ms. Andrews' case back a couple years ago when it was first happening, when she was first being held at the jail and being held in solitary confinement. And she had objected, her attorneys had objected to her being held in solitary because of her mental illness and her suicide attempts. So I was familiar with her and her federal lawsuit before this story, even, a couple years ago. And what happened was, as her federal lawsuit is working its way through the system, it's actually scheduled for trial in January. The plaintiff, Ms. Andrews, and her attorneys received discovery as part of the case. So they received files and reports and videos and things like that relevant to the issues that she was complaining of in the lawsuit. And as part of that discovery, she received video of this specific incident that I wrote about from May 30th, 2019. And And what the video shows, she had just been returned to the jail after another separate suicide attempt. And she was being moved through the jail, I think from intake to a housing unit. And what happened was, and this is all according to the video, as she was being escorted by two officers, she stopped, she looked at them, and they were talking, and there's no audio, so you can't tell what's being said. She started moving forward again. Her hands were cuffed in front of her. Her legs were shackled. And as she moved down a hallway and then around into an elevator, and there were more officers behind her at that point.
So wait, we started with you said there were two. You said there were two officers with her, and now there are more.
Several more. Yeah. So according to the video and the sergeant who was involved in this incident's report, that sergeant had asked for additional officers to join her as she was kind of moving through intake. So while it started out, I think, with just two officers behind her, as they moved down the hallway, more officers arrived. By the time the incident in the elevator occurs, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second, there were 9 jail officers in and around the elevator while this was happening.
Okay, escorting, I just want to be clear, 9 officers escorting a handcuffed, shackled woman to a cell.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And what the video shows, and there's 2 angles. There's one from the hallway and entering the elevator, and then one from inside the elevator. And what you see is Miss Andrews, as she's coming through the elevator door, is shoved forward. She can't break her fall. Her face hits the railing of the elevator on the back wall. Her face falls down. And as that's happening, she was tased. And the taser was out in the sergeant's hand before they got into the elevator. You could see the light. There's a light on the front of the taser, and you could see that it was out in her hand as they were getting to the elevator.
Okay, so again, Paula, let me just clarify this. There's not, it's
Sure.
9 on 1. The one being handcuffed in front of her and shackled. And as entering the elevator, she is shoved and obviously then loses balance, falls head first because she cannot break her fall, her head hitting the railing, comes down, and then there's already a taser pulled. Okay.
Yes. The taser.
She has, okay, but she has not in any way, other than potentially said something, right, that we don't know.
Yeah.
She has done nothing.
She says,
okay.
That's correct. And the video in the sergeant's report, she said that Andrews broke away from them, that she pushed the sergeant up against the wall, and that she was physically aggressive. And the video doesn't show any of that. And actually, the reason why all of this story came to light, the plaintiffs had hired a youth or a corrections expert who previously was the warden of a state prison in Nebraska to review all of the things they received in discovery. And in his report, he said that this video ought to be turned over to local law enforcement for investigation because of what he saw in it.
Okay, so what he saw in it was potentially crimes being committed by law enforcement, by the officers against this helpless inmate.
That's what he said, yes.
Okay, so she's pushed, she hits her head, falls face down onto the floor, and then is tased?
Yes. So so she is tased during that. It's hard to tell exactly when, because while the prongs are in her back, you can't see exactly in the video because it's a surveillance video or a jail video. So she's down on the ground, on the floor of the elevator. She manages to sit up. So she's sitting and leaned back against the elevator in the video. She's not moving. She's not struggling. She when I interviewed her, she said she was dazed by having been tased. But she was tased twice during that exchange. And then she describes having been pinned down by the officers in the elevator. She was down on her stomach, and the video shows that. And then she was what they call a drive stun, which is when you take the taser. So normally a taser shoots prongs that are on like a wired connection to the device in your hand, and that would shoot the prongs out and get into the person. But on the third time, according to both the reports and her, the sergeant stuck the taser into Andrews's thigh in what's called a drive stun, which is like a direct connection between the device and the skin.
God almighty. Okay.
And then after that, well, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I guess I'm saying God almighty because, okay, so she poses no threat to any of them. They are, subjecting her to this, this physical and potentially lethal abuse. I mean, people die from this kind of interaction. Obviously, she could have died hitting her head. She could have died with the taser, all of that stuff. And I get the thing that freaked me out is that the officer has the gall to make up a thing where she gets attacked, and that's why she did what she did. And she had to know full well that there are cameras that would prove her wrong. I mean, just lying. So her official report is proven by the video to be wrong. I don't know if you as a reporter can. Yes, but I mean, it is.
I mean, according to the video that I watched.
Yeah, according to your eyes.
Right.
According to, I mean, it's like we're now at a point where, right, it's like the January 6th, insurrection. We all see this thing happening, but we're told by others that it was like a normal day and they were like tourists and they were a loving crowd. I mean, we see the evidence. There's no doubt.
Right. And one of the things, and I will just tell you because I wondered the same thing. I specifically went back to Andrews' attorney to inquire if there was something we were missing, if there was video from before this happened. Was there video from a different hallway? Was there something else that showed what the sergeant said in her report? And he assured me that there was not anything else, and that he said that Andrews did not resist in any way physically. There were for sure words said. Andrews admits that. And there were curse words exchanged, but there was not anything of any physical resistance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I also want to note that, okay, so it's at this point, it's just one officer who is doing the pushing, the tasing, or is it more than one?
From all accounts, it appears that it's just the sergeant who did the tasing. Several other officers, once she was down on the ground, however, came in and were on top of her, and she was pinned down. Another officer ran to get a restraint chair and bring it back to that area of the jail. But it was just one officer that used the taser.
Okay.
But several other officers also wrote reports supporting what the sergeant wrote in her.
That's okay. That's what I wanted to get at. So this assault, and these are my words, this assault on this woman incapable of defending herself, already restrained, even though they go running for a restraint chair, already restrained, is witnessed by 8 other officers who then corroborate the account given by the officer, the sergeant, who the video clearly says is lying. So they corroborate this false report of what had occurred.
Yes. And it was reviewed later by jail administration, and nothing was done. Disciplinary. Nothing was done.
Yeah. Okay. So, and let's remember, this is a suicidal, mentally ill woman. Has she committed a violent crime? Ever been convicted of a violent crime? No.
No. She had been held at that point. She had originally been arrested for resisting arrest. She had been in a fight downtown, or allegedly been in a fight downtown. She missed a hearing and was extradited back from Atlanta. And then she was later charged with a theft count. So those are the charges that she has been charged with before.
A possible fight, missing a hearing, and a count of alleged theft, right? Have there been any convictions on any of this?
She was convicted and was serving she was sentenced to probation.
Okay. So she has a federal case. Why is it a federal case? I don't understand. Why don't you? I don't understand what it's because it's a violation of her civil rights. Is that what the allegation is?
The lawsuit? Yes. Yes. The lawsuit is a violation of her civil rights based on both the use of force, the excessive force that was used on her at the jail, as well as the solitary confinement and the conditions of confinement that she had there.
Okay. The warden, Orlando Harper, has he had anything to say about the behavior of his staff?
No. He, for this story specifically, the county said that nobody could speak with me because of the pending litigation, which is a typical,
yes,
that's the response you get from any entity when there's a lawsuit pending.
Right. Now, I want to get to, so wait, they run and get a restraining chair after she's already been tased more than once and has had her head, hit, has gone face down, is surrounded by 9 officers, shackled and handcuffed, has exhibited no physical effort to, attack any of them. And then, now, explain this chair, because I've been reading about it. It has popped up in accounts of what goes on at our Allegheny County Jail. It's a chair, and a person is put in it, and somehow strapped into it so they cannot move their arms or their legs.
Right. So the way that the chair functions, the person is placed in it. Their hands are secured to the arms of the chair. Their legs are secured to the bottom of the chair, and they are made to wear a hood over their head and face.
So a hood with no, so they cannot see. There's a black hood put over their faces, and they're
right. They can't see. The chair is designed to allegedly to help calm a person down. The use of force expert who talked about the chair in his report and the jail's overall instances of use of force over the years noted that the restraint chair is only to be used in emergencies where a person is a threat to harm themselves or others, and that it at maximum should be used for no longer than 2 hours at a time, because if a person isn't calmed by that point, then the chair's not going to do it, and they need additional help, whether it's mental health treatment or be taken to a facility, whatever it might be. In Kimberly Andrews' case, She was unconscious, it appears from the video, when she was put in the chair. And the reports say that she remained there for 9 hours.
Good God. I also want to point out that your article says that at the Allegheny County Jail, statistics show, and the statistics are from the year of this incident, right, 2019.
That's correct. And these are statistics reported to the the State Department of Corrections that collects them.
From the jail.
Correct.
I mean, the jail obviously keeps track. Okay, maybe. The jail reported that they used the restraint chair 339 times that year. There is not another jail in the Commonwealth that is anywhere near that.
That's correct. In all of Philadelphia, they didn't use it once.
5 jails in Philadelphia, a slightly larger population, never used a restraint chair once. Allegheny County Jail, 339 times, and clearly not being used for what it is supposed to be used for, because it's supposed to help the person regain control. If somebody's unconscious, they shouldn't be put in that chair, obviously. And as you said, Paula, after 2 hours, if they're still exhibiting signs of, not calming, which certainly she was not, they should be removed, because the chair then is not doing what it's supposed to do. Left there for 9 hours. This is a woman who was put in solitary for, do we have any idea how long this mentally ill woman was stuck in solitary, which is certainly not a good thing for a mentally ill person.
The lawsuit alleges that she spent 130 days in solitary confinement during her incarceration. And that was for a period it was about 4 months, her first stint there, and then another 2.5 months the second. So out of 6 months, she spent 130 days in solitary confinement, according to the lawsuit.
I also want to point out that according to your report, and from data gotten from the jail itself, in that same year, the staff at the jail used stun guns 146 times, and that is 12 times more per capita than all other jails. In fact, Allegheny County Jail accounted for 50% of all taser use in all Pennsylvania jail facilities that year. Paula, I know you're a reporter, so it's just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. But I have to tell you, these numbers are so mind-boggling and so damning. And let me quote the guy you quote in it. This he was a warden, right? Himself?
Correct.
Hansen. He says, these numbers are extraordinary. And it is evidence that there is a culture that has been created by the administration where force is being approved in situations where it is not necessary, or at the very least, other methods should have been tried before the use of force was escalated. I have been reading over the last year or two accounts from reporters such as yourself and other publications about what is going on inside that edifice. And I do not understand why there is why this is tolerated. We have a prison review board, correct? The county has a board of elected officials and maybe some others who are supposedly, I don't know what powers they have, but overseeing what goes on in that building.
Yes.
One of the members of it, County Councilwoman Bethany Hallam, has been, I think, really trying to draw attention to this. And she was quoted when I said that I had seen in another paper today about how the county now wants to spend money to reconfigure physically the jail. Hallam's response to that, let me get it here, was, if the jail would maybe focus less time on fancy architectural designs and more time on providing resources to the people who need it, that's what shows to actually reduce mass incarceration. Instead of spending, they're actually saying that these architectural designs, I guess, are supposed to reduce the population. Hallam goes on, instead of spending all this money to do a redesign, how about instead we actually make it a rehabilitation center? We provide job training and education and affordable housing and help folks get their life in gear so that when they are released from the jail, they have a much lower rate of recidivism. And she says she didn't even know about this. Well, I hear this all the time until she read it in the paper. So what's going on when the review board learns about what's going on in the jail they're supposedly overseeing from reporters?
Yeah, that's not an uncommon situation. Often when I cover the Jail Review Board monthly meetings, they will bring up instances that we have written about that they have heard of for the first time. So, that is unfortunately not at all unusual, the way that the system works here in Allegheny County.
Can you tell us, Paula, the makeup of this board? I mean, how big a board is it? Who's on it? How do they get on it?
So I probably should know the exact number of people that sit on it, but I don't. So I apologize for that. But I can tell you that the members include President Judge Kim Clark, who is the Allegheny County President Judge. Judge Beth Lazara is on it. Bethany Hallam is on it. Barb Parise, who retired from working for the county is on it. There are members of the public at large. One of the members is named Terry Klein. There are many people who sit on the board. They meet monthly. They have various committees where they, work on inmate welfare. And during the pandemic, they were allocating funds so that the people who are incarcerated could use iPads to call their family and friends and things like that. So they do a lot. They do a lot of things. One of the complaints.
Do they have any power?
Well,
they don't have power over Orlando Harper, the warden, who it seems to me needs to be, thrown into the river he oversees too. They don't have hiring and firing power. The positions at the jail are controlled by the county executive. They have recently been working to do exit interviews of people who are leaving the jail's employment. That started over the last few months. I had done a story about a nursing administrator who was leaving and had only stayed for not a very long time and was leaving because of the way the medical facilities were run. And she was unhappy there with the way the process worked. And so she was leaving. And after a story that ran about her, the jail oversight board started to take up the issue of whether or not they might be able to interview some of these people as they're leaving to figure out what's wrong to potentially address the underlying problems there in terms of retaining staff and hiring. Who appoints the people on this board?
Some of them are there by statute. Others
like the
are
president
there,
judge, probably. Yeah.
Right.
But,
And then, the county executive is supposed to be at the meetings. He has designated his employees to go there. And I think that I don't know if some of the individual civilian members are appointed by him, I believe.
Yeah. Well, that often is the case. So I'm going to make that assumption. How long has Orlando Harper been the warden there? Do you
several
know?
Years.
It seems to me
many years.
Several years. I mean, to me, I know this is getting into things that you can't discuss. When I drive by that facility, I can barely look because I know from reporting by you and others in this city the horrors that are going on in there. And it's just business as usual. And then the county now, I learned today, looking at the jail, decides they need to spend money, putting new drywall in or reconfiguring it is mind-boggling to me. And I guess now there were these referenda that the voters approved, correct? In the last election. Mm-hmm. And they were about, in part, what's going on at that jail. Can you remind us of what those referenda that passed were?
Right. So one of them, the referenda that passed, there were two. One involved no-knock warrants, which is a larger criminal justice issue. And the other was relative to the use of solitary confinement in the jail.
And the referendum said what?
The referendum said that solitary confinement would be banned at the jail, except in the case of lockdowns or a medical emergency, and or a person who might request some kind of protective separation based on, whatever their charges are or whatever the case may be. And that passed overwhelmingly with.
Yeah, was that to go into effect when? Immediately? When?
It had 180 days, I believe, after its passage before it takes effect.
And who's supposed to figure out if, in fact, that is even being followed? I mean, I can't even imagine the numbers of inmates subjected to solitary confinement for God knows how long. Somebody gets in a fight or doesn't show up at a hearing like the woman you write about, and she spends months and months and months in solitary confinement. She's not a one-off. There's got to be, I hate to think, we hear this one story. And how many inmates are in there? Thousands. I just can't imagine the horrors that are going on in that place.
Allegheny County the jail uses solitary confinement pretty frequently. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but anecdotally, I see when I'm covering court hearings, defendants are in there wearing, it's called this restricted housing unit uniforms. They're different than the rest of the jail uniforms. So you see them very frequently. In terms of enforcing the ban, presumably that will go to the jail staff. But in Allegheny County, the Abolitionist Law Center, which represents Kimberly Andrews, is actively working with the incarcerated population. And so I would imagine that they will be keeping track of people that they talk to at the jail, whether or not solitary is being used or not used. And I would imagine that if that referendum is being violated, there would be another court action that would follow to challenge it.
But, it's just so dispiriting to me to see that. So it's an outside entity, some nonprofit that is doing the job that Rich Fitzgerald and the county government should be doing, overseeing the jail, making sure it abides by these laws and rules and the will of the people. It's just maddening to me. My heart goes out to anybody in there. And can we acknowledge that I think the majority of people in there, Paula, have not been convicted of whatever crimes. Right. They haven't been convicted.
Right.
Okay.
The vast majority are there being held pre-trial, so they have not even had either a trial or any kind of adjudication yet. That's correct.
So even though they're there, they have not been convicted of anything. And if you learned anything in school, innocent until proven guilty, and yet subjected to physical, what I would call torture, abuse, and mental torture and abuse going on right there in that building that you go by all the time, right? Go ahead.
One of the things that my story this past week talked about, Kimberly Andrews' attorney forwarded the video, the discovery materials, and their expert report to the U.S. Attorney's Office and have requested an investigation by them, not only relative to the sergeant's use of the taser on Andrews, but also on the numbers of use of force incidents that are happening there. And, you know, if they had their way, the U.S. Attorney's Office would refer it to probably the FBI. There would be an investigation. And, you know, the jail has been subject to a consent decree in the past relative to the Department of Justice and the way things are being run there. So I think that the Abolitionist Law Center is hopeful that maybe there would be an investigation that could lead to some more system-wide changes or oversight there.
But if there was a
of course, the U.S. Attorney's Office wouldn't comment.
Yes, of course. That must drive reporters insane. So there was a consent decree before against this jail, and obviously it didn't do much, or was it even more of a horror show before that? Because look at where we are. I mean, we should be just embarrassed, appalled, ashamed. I mean, in comparison to the huge city of Philadelphia, we outstrip every other penal facility in the state for use of these draconian and inhumane. I'm sorry. Your story it ruined my day. I just want to say. Paula,
yeah.
Geez. Hey, listen. Okay, so we'll. Man, I want Orlando Harper and the whole place. I want that place cleaned out. I hope the feds go after them. And I would get in touch with Rich Fitzgerald and tell him, don't spend one penny on a consultant to reconfigure the physical nature of that torture hellhole. Okay, I'm done freaking out. Now, I just wanted to ask you something. Last time you were on my show many years ago, you were on because you had written this incredible page turner of a book about a case that you had covered here. The book was called Death by Cyanide, and it was the case of that doctor, right? Or was he he was a doctor.
He was a researcher. He was a PhD.
He was a researcher, right. Robert Ferrante, a handsome character who was spirited away from Harvard or Boston to come to Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, and his researcher wife, I forget her name.
Autumn Klein.
And you might recall this story because he's now in jail for having murdered her, poisoned her. Death by Cyanide. It was an amazing story, amazing book. Give us an update on what's going on. I remember seeing a few things where Ferrante is actually trying to get a new trial or get out or what?
He is trying to get a new trial. There was recently, he's now in what's called the PCRA stage of his appeals, which is post-conviction relief. He most recently had a hearing in early July in which he's trying to argue that originally his defense attorney had asked that the jury be selected from outside of Allegheny County because of pretrial publicity. And
of
so
all
they
that
had filed a
stuff
motion.
you wrote. That's right.
Right. Damn media. So they had asked to have an outside of Allegheny County jury. And then shortly before the trial was scheduled to start, there was a meeting with the judge, a hearing where the defense said, you know what, Judge, we've changed our mind. We think we can get a fair jury here in Allegheny County. And so the out-of-county jury was waived, and they did, in fact, have a jury from the Pittsburgh-area that sat to hear the case. Ferrante is now trying to argue that that hearing in which the out-of-county jury was waived never happened, and that he was never he never agreed to have a local jury, and he ought to have a new trial based on that fact. You would think that that would not, it would be maybe a non-starter relative to all of this because, you know, there was a proceeding that the media covered at the time, but it turns out that they can't find the transcript of the proceeding, and the court reporter who had done it for the courts has passed away. And so they can't find the transcript, and there's the only record of that having occurred is by media reports now. And so
who can't find the transcript? What well, wait a minute. What well-run agency is this? Where would that transcript normally be?
It ought to be within the Allegheny County Court Reporters, which is the group of people who take down
but the court
all the
itself
words.
Doesn't. Yeah.
So the court reporter who did it, she passed away, and they can't find it. So the defense argument is it never happened, and that he ought to get a new trial based on that.
Yeah, right. So he was sentenced to how many years?
He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, which is mandatory in Pennsylvania.
And where is he serving that?
He is, the last I checked, he was at SCI Houtzdale, which is in the middle of the state.
I think he should be transferred immediately to Orlando Harper's facility. I know it's not a normal place for somebody who's already been convicted, but I would like Dr. Ferrante to be in Orlando Harper's wonderful little facility. I'm just kidding. You're okay. Wow. Well, you're one hell of a crime reporter. You're just something. And I thank you for your great work. Paula Reed Ward used to work at the Post-Gazette. She has, thank God, gone over to the Tribune-Review and continuing her amazing work. Well done, Paula.
Thank you. That was very kind.
Oh, not kind. It was, believe me, deserved. I thank you so much. Keep it up. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay. Bye-bye. Oh, my God. I have to tell you, this is on us. This is our county. We elect the people. Then we fall asleep. We pay no attention. In our name, people are being tortured as I speak. Tortured. Mentally, physically. People who have been convicted of nothing. People whose crime is probably that they are poor because they can't put up the bail to get out. This is our country. This is our county. This is our justice. What a joke system. I'm sorry. It is, to me, just so upsetting. You know, when we wring our hands and think there's nothing we can do about what's going on in Washington or this or that or, you know, climate change. Here, this is our county. This is becoming something, a geographical area that we can get our heads around, and we can pay attention. This is where local media, which is disappearing, is the only way we will keep people like Orlando Harper and Rich Fitzgerald and all this board that supposedly oversees. Somebody should immediately, change the name of that jail oversight board. They're a bunch of clueless, and many of them wanting to do the right thing, getting no information. Rich Fitzgerald should be ashamed. Just ashamed of this. And I don't want 1 cent of my tax dollars paying a friggin' consultant to reconfigure the inside of that torture chamber building. All right, I think I'm done now. I want to point out that I read something today, change the subject. This has to do with COVID. And the fact that researchers are stunned because something bizarre is happening in the UK, where the Delta variant has been there, and they were expecting, they were seeing an uptick like we are in new infections. And for 1 week now, there has been this rather astonishing decline in cases. All the experts said the cases would be rising, and they're going down. And now everybody's scrambling to figure out why. And you know what they've decided probably is why? Because more than 70% of adults in Britain are fully vaccinated, and 88% have had at least one dose, way ahead of where this hapless country is. And it's not our government that's to blame. It is our frigging citizenry. They are thinking that, in fact, Britain is approaching population immunity. In America, we just have, I believe, 52 point something percent of adults fully vaccinated. That's nowhere near where we need to be. And my contempt for people who will not do the right thing for themselves, for their families, for the children of this country. Used to be we were trying to protect the old people. Most of the old people are pretty protected right now, more than any other demographic. You know who's we're concerned about now? The children. There's a pediatric hospital. I think it's in Atlanta, that has a bunch of children in the pediatric ICU with this Delta variant. I just can't understand. few other little items. Connor Lamb is getting ready to throw his hat in, which was assumed, to the Democratic primary Senate race. Boy, that's going to be a very tough call for a lot of Democrats. I don't know much about. There's 4, I believe, candidates now. I'm unclear on one. Is a doctor and a female doctor, and I don't know much about her. And I would hazard to guess that given that she's up against 3 politicians, she doesn't have a shot anyway. But you have an openly gay Black politician, progressive, Malcolm Kenyatta. You have, of course, the Lieutenant Governor, John Fetterman, from our environs. And now Connor Lamb, who would be the more moderate of all of these. And, you know, the calculation that will be made is whoever the Democrats pick will have to win in a statewide contest against a yet-to-be-known Republican. And it's a calculation that each voter is going to have to make. We will obviously be spending a lot of time looking at it as we get closer to the primary. And this is, of course, we're talking about the general election in 2022. I mentioned Nextdoor, that app where you can, you know, say your dog's been lost or you found somebody, or I have got to share with you. I'm sorry. I know there's a caller there. Hang on a minute, though. I got to do this. Listen to this. And I don't have the whole thing. I just took a screenshot. Some woman posted from Bloomfield. And she actually names somebody. She said, beware of this neighbor. And she says, a woman named, and I don't know, I'm going to leave the name out because I don't know. A woman named came to my house last night to pick up items we discussed her taking via Nextdoor. So see, this is what Nextdoor does. Somebody can say, I have these items. I'm willing to give them away free. Direct message me and we can figure out how, when, this, that, and the other. And wait a minute. Damn it, I've lost it. And so she says, she came to my house last night to pick up items we discussed her taking. She ended up stealing a family heirloom bookshelf along with other random things like wreaths and my swimsuit bottoms. And it goes on. If anyone knows her, could they please let her know to get in touch with me? She won't get in touch with me. She stopped responding. And will you stop and say, okay, wait. So a bunch of people then immediately reply, oh my God, that is just awful. How did that happen? And nobody, until finally somebody says, wait a minute. This woman comes to your house and she manages to steal a bookshelf? Wait a minute. And swimsuit bottoms? I mean, it is so ludicrous. It is so, maybe, yeah, it happened. If it did, it's a riot. What would make somebody, how do you get out of someone's house with a bookcase and their swimsuit bottoms? And And then, oh, there are people on this app. You got to get this app. If just for I'm telling you, just for stuff like this. This woman filed a police report. She has a woman's name. Somebody else in like Millville or Etna writes in, oh, I think this is the woman, and actually has a picture of her. And she said she and her husband say, I have, blah, blah, blah. And so it starts up. I got to tell you this, I just had to share it. It's too effing funny. If the caller's still there, I got 2 minutes for you. Hello.
Okay, I'll be quick. About the virus. Yesterday morning, we get a memo from the president of our company saying effective August 1st, all employees will be returned to full-time in office.
And you'll be penalized for not wearing a mask, for wearing a mask, I bet. Knowing your employer. And
if you wear a mask, you will be ridiculed probably by everybody else.
You will be ridiculed. That you know. Oh my!
But what's interesting is this morning I had a conversation with one of my coworkers who voted for Trump twice, actually, and he says, "What's wrong with these people who won't get vaccinated? What's wrong with them?" And I said, "They don't trust the government," and he started saying, "Why don't they trust the government?" I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, have you been paying attention? And it's like, and I did say, I said, these people who don't trust the government, I said, well, where the hell else would they want to live in the world? Who has a better government than the United States? I'm not saying we're perfect. We're far from perfect, but
I think there are better governments. There are, Roger, better governments. Believe me, there are in smaller countries. Yes, but yeah, no. This has been a Republican long plan. They've been working at it for decades to make Americans mistrust the government. Well, I give you Ronald Reagan. He's the one. Most frightening words you'll ever hear in the English language. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. Yeah, Ronnie Reagan.
That same group of people who bought into all this shit, and they're the ones who are waving the flags and saying we're the greatest ever. I guess. So
I know. They listen. They are insane. They are delusional. I don't know what to say. I got to let you go because, believe it or not, I have another caller I'm going to try to squeeze in.
Oh, good. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye. Be careful at work. Jeez. Yeah. Somebody can get this guy a job somewhere else. He'd appreciate it probably. Okay. Caller. We got another caller. Hi. Oh. Aw, come on, caller. Did you hang up on me? Hello? Damn. Well, you could call back. I've got 1 minute left. Anybody there? No, he's gone. Okay, too bad. There's, again, this Olympics is so bizarre because now we, what NBC is going to be showing us tonight is already known, and it has to do with the women's gymnastics individual all around, the thing that Simone Biles has owned forever, but she did not compete this year. And I won't tell you, but obviously you probably already know, but it's, I think you'll like the result. That's all I'm saying. I think you'll like the result. Okay, that is it for us. And I thank you very much. I will return, as far as I know, next Monday. And have a good, supposed to be a beautiful weekend. Enjoy. But going indoors, I'd wear a mask, guys. There's too many friggin' idiots amongst us. Be safe.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.